How's it going, everyone? It is Andre Williams, and over here we talk stocks and we focus on one thing. Always protect your profits. And today we're going to be talking about the spatial data company Matterport. Yes, this has been a social media darling. It has been hyped up quite a bit. A lot of speculation behind the play. It does give you exposure to the metaverse as well. But again, there's some key things I want you guys to know before you even jump into this play, because it can provide you with a potential opportunity if you're considering to buy shares. I won't waste any more time. Let's jump into the agenda. If you're new to this channel, I just want to let you know we have timestamps down below inside the description. But if you're a shareholder or you're thinking about taking a position, I highly suggest you watch this full entire video. So the first thing we're going to go over is the technical analysis. We're going to be taking a look at the overall price action. We want to know support. We want to know resistance. We want to know what it looks like in the bearish case scenario and as well as in the bullish case scenario. And then we're going to go on Fintel, taking a look at the recent institutional ownership and short interest information. The reason why this is important because it has an impact on the way the stock performs. And then we're going to take a look at the order flow distribution. We want to know the buying and the selling behavior on the retail side and as well as on the institutional side. And then when all of that is done, we'll be going into the final thoughts and as well as some more details. So let's get to it. So we're going to do a technical analysis for Matterport. Let's see how it performed on Friday. So it ended up closing at $13.34, being down 5.52%. On the low, it tested $12.98, and then on the high, testing $14.35. When we take a look at the volume stats on the day, you can see we traded at 11.366 million shares, and the average volume over 10 trading days is at 9.794 million shares. So we can see we did have above average volume on the day, and we dealt with a good amount of selling pressure. Now, when we take a look at our chart, which is the daily chart, you can see from the RSI down below, it is at 27.96. And then when we take a look at our moving averages here on the chart, we are below the 50-day, the 100-day, the 21-day EMA, and as well as the 200-day. And what is very clear, Matterport is in a bear market, and it is on a solid downtrend. The way how this is actually looking, like it will get to $12 before the lockup period. But let's move on. One of the areas that you want to see Matterport get above is right here at the $14 area. It was able to see a high of $14.35, but to look for that reversal, it's definitely going to have to make a big one, getting back into the mid 14s at the least, and then essentially you'd want to see it get back up to the 200-day, which is right around $17.51. But from what it looks like, and since the lockup is coming up, I would stay away and I would be patient before even jumping into this play. I don't even see a swing trade opportunity, to be honest with you guys. So if you are going to be going in with a position, wait for that date of January the 18th and see where the stock does decide to settle. I do know this is kind of like a metaverse play and so on, so I know there is a lot of upside to it, but again, this is not something that you want to rush into. Like I said, this has to make a move back above the 14 area, then climb up back to 17 for it to start looking bullish, and for buyers wanting to feel comfortable and confident to actually step in and bring this stock back up. But from what it's looking like right now, like I said in the beginning, this stock looks like it could easily get back down to $12 and even down to $11. So that's just what I wanted to give you guys a heads up on. So now let's move on to the short interest information. So we're going to take a look at the recent institutional ownership and short interest information for Matterport. So as we scroll down further on the page, green rows indicate new positions while red rows indicate closed positions. So we don't have any new filings for this year, but we could see for December, we have Schwab that purchased just under 70,000 shares, and we also have FGR, also Fidelity Growth Opportunities ETF, that purchased 4,636 shares, and then as far as we go back is in November. But we could see institutions loading up fairly heavy here. And now when we take a look at the short interest, the dark pool short volume ratio is at 35.49%, and then for the dark pool short volume, it is just over 2.3 million shares. Scrolling down further on the page, the short shares availability is at 45,000, updated 6 minutes ago, and then for the short ball free rate, it is at 30.21%. So that is fairly high right there. And then when we take a look at the history of the short volume ratio, we can see for the close of January the 13th, it is at 51.10. And then for the close of the 14th, which was a Friday that just passed, it's at 35.49. So that is a significant difference right there. But one thing that is very clear, it still continues to have short squeeze potential. The criteria we normally look for is 21% or higher, and considering it's at 35.49, this is why you see a lot of volatility in the stock. So now let's move on to the order flow distribution.
Now let's take a look at the order flow distribution for Matterport. We can see on the inflow it's at 23.39, and then on the outflow it's at 34.51. So we end up having an outflow day. Taking a look at the breakdown on the large, it was 0.67. On the medium, it was 15.26, and then on the small, it is at 7.46. When we take a look at the outflow side, it was 0 on the large. On the medium, it was 19.96, and then on the small, it was 14.55. Taking a look at the large scale orders in the last 5 days, you can see we had an inflow day on January the 14th, so the Friday that just passed, at 672.28. 2 trading days prior to that, so the 13th and the 12th, we had 0, and then we had outflow days on the 11th and as well as for the 10th. When analyzing the numbers even further for the small scale orders that tends to represent the retail side, we had more selling than we had buying. And then when we take a look at what happened on the medium, we had more selling than we had buying. And of course, since we just covered it, taking a look at the large scale orders, which tends to represent institutions and funds, we had more inflows, or we had more buying than we actually had selling. And then when we take a look now at the turnover ratio, it was at 4.66%. So yes, this is up there, but again, this is a stock that has been on quite the downtrend, dealing with a lot of selling pressure. We could see that from the order flow. So when you see this type of action happening inside of a stock, everyone's just going to adjust, and you're going to have more volatility. Plus, on top of that, it's a growth stock trading with high valuations. Again, no surprises whatsoever. So let's go into the final thoughts, and we'll go over some more details as well. So for my final thoughts for Matterport, one thing I have to say, the chart looks ugly. I don't think I've ever said that before, but the chart looks really bad. I wouldn't be surprised if this stock ends up seeing around the $12 range or even the $11 range. They also do have a lockup expiration on January the 18th. So anyone who's been thinking about building a position in this play, I would wait until then to see where the stock actually stays at and finds a base. This is very important due to the fact we are getting into interesting times in regards to economic conditions. We see that they're going to be raising up interest rates multiple times throughout the year. So if you're going to be choosing certain growth stocks, make sure that you have high conviction. This is very important. And for this stock to actually turn around and start showing some bullish behavior, I'd want to see it get to at least $17, and I could see buyers wanting to step in. Also, when we went on Fintel, taking a look at the short interest information, it does have short squeeze potential. But again, this is nothing to be surprised about. Since it's been on quite the downtrend for quite some time, short sellers are going to be all over this thing. And that's one of the reasons why I want to make sure you do your homework and you do your due diligence before you jump into this stock. If you did have an entry, this stock did run up a lot. That's one thing to take into consideration here. I know many people at some point were up 100%, over 100% on this play. And that's at a time where you got to consider and say, well, you know what? I want to protect my profits. Or you know what? Get out your initial investment and let the rest of the money ride out. Everything would be on the house's money. And if it does pull back and you have high conviction, you just buy more shares when it's at a cheaper price. This is why I always say on my channel, you do not need to FOMO into any of these growth stocks whatsoever. They're going to have their ups and they're going to be having their downs. So again, if you want to be in this play, wait for that lockup to expire. I can see many people selling out, and this stock could potentially go back to that $12 area. And if it sells off a lot more, it can even get down into the 11s, and this is not bad at all. We also do know they do play a key role inside of the metaverse. So I know many of you are interested in metaverse type of plays, getting that exposure. Maybe you may not be interested in getting into an actual ETF or buying the bigger companies. Then Matterport becomes an interesting play to actually hold in your portfolio for metaverse exposure. But aside from all of that, this spatial data software company is worth taking an extra look and doing some more research, but just make sure that you're patient when it comes to your entry and keep an eye on this stock for the date of January 18th to see how it performs. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and we'll be talking real soon.